Alright, let's see. Do we have sound? OBS or sound? Good, hopefully. Hey, we got a new follower on Twitch. Pop out? Does this pop out? Where'd it go to though? I don't know where it went. Biting bits. Thanks for the follow on Twitch. I don't know if you'll see this or not. I don't know if I was streaming when you followed 2 days ago. I guess Saturday, perhaps Saturday morning. Yeah, I did not notice that when it came through. If it was while I was streaming, so sorry about that. If you happen to see this, I do appreciate the follow nonetheless. Let's see. All right. Oops. Break the scrolling here. Like this used to work. How's it going, Johnny? I'm early today. Haven't stopped working yet. Yep. Popping on for some library work this morning. What is this? This is from something else. You're having a nice day? You're still working? It's a good label. Haven't seen that before. Okay, here we go. Now we're ready to hop in. And I'll probably take my hoodie off. It's starting to warm up a little bit. He just kicked on a little bit ago. Alright, so we're gonna jump in and we're going through kind of a lot of different things. We're not really gonna spend a bunch of time working on one problem exactly. First, I gotta say hug report to Dexter or Rspone on GitHub here for testing out the web workflow. I did mention merging that yesterday. Totally did not actually merge it. My bad. I forgot about that by the time we wrapped up the stream. But Dexter tried it out. I appreciate that a lot. Let me merge it now. So that's what we're gonna do. And then we got a couple other library PRs to check in on from last week, and then just kind of dive into PR testing, Black Friday, Cyber Monday issues. I gotcha. Yeah, I'm the architect of a logistics system, so spent some time figuring out why FedEx was so slow. I gotcha. Yeah, I imagine a lot of... This basically makes it the busy time, effectively. If that's your gig, logistics and shipping and stuff. Especially, I think, more and more each year, it's about, like, people doing a lot more ordering direct. Alright, so we want to merge this back. I think we're probably ready to merge this back to web workflow, which is the one that the PR is actually made against. Sorry, I'm just like zooming back and forth here. This is actually what I'm trying to find though, so I do want to check. Yeah, we passed. Looks like we passed actions the last time this ran. Okay, so yeah, I think we want to merge the web workflow refactor back to web workflow. Didn't have any conflicts, which is nice. And then we'll push this, and that will push to web workflow, which is this branch the PR is made for. We'll kick off the actions and all sorts of things here. And then as long as we pass the actions on this side, I will kind of mark it like ready for review again. It's ready for another look from Scott or whoever wants to look at it, really. If we have anybody with Mac who can try it out, I'd be stoked to have that happen as well. I did manage to break it on Windows, and it's fixed again on Windows. But all of my development has been on Linux. I would hate to pile on our friends who use Mac and are already having issues with the Sonoma update or whatever's going on there by accidentally breaking circuit for them. We have customers that has 80% of their yearly sales now. Wow, yeah. Dang, that is like, talk about cramming a bunch. Talking about cramming everything into one little window, huh? Crazy. Alright, do we want to wait on this or scooch on and come back to it? Let's do that. Mini MQTT is another one that you can check in on. Then we have some more to test. There's lots of mini MQTT work going on. Hug reports again to Vladak for this. Same person, actually, right? Same person? Yeah, look at that. This, I think, could be closed. It's not what we're here to look at, but I think I even mentioned on here. I guess we should check into whether the frozen libraries ever got updated. I think that's the key here. October, that's about a month ago. If the frozen libraries are updated, then I don't think this PR is relevant. I think this PR fixes a problem that's already been fixed in a different way. Oops, I shouldn't have closed that. Oh, it looks like this did pass. Okay. Let's see. It didn't. Let's just go. Sorry, I hadn't. Did I mention on here what I had tested? Yeah. But while I was working on these tests, which I think I actually did the tests on the stream. I think I did it sometime I did it sometime last week and I was not on the stream, but I'm not positive. Either which way, though, while I was working on the tests, one thing that struck me was a lot of the tests are mocking stuff that we technically don't have to mock with the mock library, is what I mean. So, like, if we look in Circuit tests, wherever the tests are at, tests, let's close the virtual environment, first of all, that's massive. Circuit. So this here, a lot of things it will say like mock patch, Circuit get bundle versions, which I was unfamiliar with this at the time, but I read a little bit about it and figured out what it's doing. It's basically making it so that inside of that block, whenever this function gets called, it will return this instead of actually getting called. It will fake it. And some of this code does things like mock I think built-ins, is it called? Built-ins? Yeah. So some of the stuff like this, it does mock patch built-ins open, mock open as mock open, which is making it so it can pretend to be a file, basically. Like inside of this block, whenever the code in there calls open, which you would normally just call like, f equals open, file name, read write, whatever, it's gonna not be a real file on the real disk. Instead, it's gonna pretend to have this data inside of it. Whenever you call read on it, you'll get back this data. But we don't actually need to do that, and we could be testing Circuit a little bit more directly because Circuit actually has --path. --path, which lets you target a directory, and then it will treat that directory as the CircuitPy drive. And one of the things I actually did when I was working on the test was make this mock device directory inside the test folder with a boot out that looks like a legitimate boot out. So like Circuit will treat this directory as a real device. It could install stuff into it and do all the normal operations on it as though it were a device. So I think there's places like here we could not need to mock the opening. Instead, we could just be using --path when we are running Circuit in this context here. If we had --path tests mock device, it could open a real device. We could put a CodePy, we could put whatever else we want in here as well. Certain libs, could put stuff in there for it to do. Honestly, though, one thing we should still do, actually, before we kind of say this is ready for another look, is there's no documentation about the web workflow, I don't think. Is that true? Let me check if that's true. I'm pretty sure that's true, though. Like, if we look files changed here, README is not touched, is it? No, README is not touched. Only init. What is this? iSort config? I don't know what that is. I wonder if I added that. Probably not, I guess, right? That's probably Vladek. Yeah. I don't know what that file does. Should look into that. I'm not sure if we will want that in the repo or not. I don't know. I've seen isort, like pip install isort. I've seen that go by sometimes. I don't know what it does though. Well, I think is it import sort? It's probably import sort. Why do you need that though? Is it not specified somewhere? Although CircuitPython is kind of a weird repo. It's a bit different than the libraries and the other stuff. Okay. Yeah, there is no mention in the README. So the thing is, we should go and update the README. Should go and update the README. So the new parameters are, well, okay, no, path is not new though, right? Path already existed, but the new thing about path is now it can be used as a URL instead of only a local file as well. So it can be, have HTTP in it. I already did forget how I was actually running those, honestly. Watch the stream, I guess, but game stuff. This is not even from here. If we're gonna get, nope, this is the same stuff. Man, it's all gone. Those are all three the same. This one's different. I don't understand how histories work inside of these terminals. Oh, wait. Okay, path, the command line argument did not change. Yeah, okay. Path, the command line argument did not change. Path, the command line argument does always target a local file, local directory, actually, technically. You use -- path like this. That's always a local thing on the PC. It could be plugged in with USB, and then it's local-ish, I guess, but it's not over the web. This path here that this is talking about, this is not the command line argument. This is the path argument in the constructor to the module class. Okay, so the true new command line arguments that need to be documented in the README are host and then password. Which already get automatically documented by CircuitPython, I think. Well, by click. By virtue of click, or whatever you want to think of it as. Is that true? Maybe not. It's not. Oh, yeah. There's host. Yeah. Totally is. Totally is. So maybe what we do, which I think the current README already has, maybe what we do is we just copy that in. Yeah. Let's grab this. Don't necessarily care for the green background highlight thing going on here. Okay, so now we have host and password listed there, so that's the new stuff. I think it will be worth maybe making one of these little sections as well, because if we look at the rendered README, okay. So here's where our full printout of everything is going to get updated. But then below that, there's all of these, like, to automatically, you know, or more broadly speaking, to do this, run this command. To do this, run this command. To do this, run this command. It's not actually a command there. It's the command. But there's a bunch of these, like, to do this thing, here's the command you need to use. To do this thing, here's the command. This thing, here's the command. So I think we should add one of these that's like, to use circup with web workflow, use -- host and ooh, I should hook this up. I didn't know this was here. I would be stoked to have autocomplete on tabs. Anyway, it's not what we're here for right now, though. So I think we can just throw it. I mean, I don't know where exactly it makes sense to put it. So I think I'm inclined to just throw it kind of at the end. I guess right before that's it, maybe. And we just make a section that says, like, to use circup with web workflow. I'm just going to grab an existing one because I don't really speak RST that well. Should we link? I don't know how to link. How do you link? My word. Who created this syntax? This is so weird. Linkify web workflow to the learn guide about it. Yeah, okay. Checking out, I was like, was that the right page? I have no idea if that will work. So now we have like backtick _dot : : and if we go further, we actually have a greater than also. Greater than backtick _ period : : Sorry if that was loud. Didn't realize I was so low on coffee. Not low enough that I want to just drink the rest of it, though. Turns out. Okay. I need to check this, I guess. Does this actually work in here? I don't use this for RST very much. It seems pretty much fine. Okay. Let's get to the part where... Okay. Nice. Nice. To use it via the web workflow on supporting devices. Is that a proper way to say that? I don't know if that's right. On devices that support it? To use circup via the web workflow on devices that support it, use the... How do you do code? Oh, double backticks. -- host and -- password arguments. Is there a width restriction in this file? Should I be making that 2 lines? My text is like the only thing that goes that far, so. That's not true. Here's some. A little bit, some others. Okay. Well, I think I'm inclined to leave it then. I mean, black should run, right? I don't know if black hits RST though. To use circuit via web, that didn't work. Did that work? I don't think that worked. Well, those are like code blocks. How do you do code inline? Maybe they are. I mean, they look different. Maybe it worked. I guess it probably worked. Yeah, it's totally different, right? It's like monospaced and bigger. Yeah, it probably worked. Just the theme doesn't make it stand out very much. And then we'll put a section here. One of these things here. Is this just a tab? I don't actually know. Circup -- host. And then I'll just put an example, which we can just use whatever mine was. I think it was 119. I don't know. Okay, here it is. What was 119? I suppose it doesn't matter. It might be worth trying that, like, circup.local or whatever. Circuit. I don't think that works for me. CircuitPython.local. Need a new window. I don't have a device running. I got a new router though. Maybe it works in the new router. Bug report, I guess, goes to Google Fiber also for just sending out a new router. Being like, here's a new router, please install it at your convenience. Wow. Yeah, I did not expect that to work, actually. I feel like I've tried that before and it didn't. It's been a while, though, because after that, I just started assuming it never works and stopped trying. Let's see. Can we go host CircuitPython.local? Then what? Password 6 install. No. Short answer is no. Long answer is, like, we actually got farther than I thought, because so what happened is it redirected to CPY, which is the same thing that happened in the browser. It redirected, and then once it redirected, it broke the password. It's no longer putting the name and password in here. Well, the name is blank, so it's just an extra colon, but it's not putting the password in the URL. And it needs to, or else it should, in fact, get 401 unauthorized, because it is unauthorized. It didn't pass the password via plain text across the network, which is the best way to go, but it's the way to go. So if we put this directly, maybe the redirect specifically broke it. You don't redirect. Nice, yeah, that one's right. It should work. Nice. If we could make the redirect work, that'd be sweet. But I also don't necessarily think it's worth holding up support for it. But if somebody else does, then we can. I think we can do both of these, in fact. Let's do this along with the IP example. Let's have both. Oh, maybe we don't put my actual password that I still need to change in this. Should I, like, one of these things? Something like this? It's something that makes it clear it's not like an argument. Well, I mean, it is an argument, but it's like you gotta put your own password there, which you need to find in settings tumble. So maybe we should also say here, it's not clear to me if I'm supposed to like new line wrap this or just keep going. So you can find the host by looking at the kind of like title bar. And host, let's see. Once your settings.toml file is set up, and see the host IP title bar. If the device has a display attached. I'll try going to CircuitPython.local. I mean, I don't think we need to say all of this. We linked them to the web workflow learn guide. They should get their web workflow set up. The learn guide there says all of that stuff, how to find these, I think. Because you'll need both of these if you want to access it in the browser too. I'm surprised at redirect. I'm surprised that CircuitPython.local worked as much as it did. It's so close. If it could just not throw away the empty username and password. I mean, it's horrendously insecure though, right? You can't just forward your plain text username and password when you get redirected. That would be awful. Yeah. Because, like, the client, which in our case, the client is requests, I guess, right? Somewhere inside of here is Python code with requests that's saying request.get. The client doesn't know that we are redirecting to the same device. The client only knows we hit CircuitPython.local, the server sent us a redirect to this .local. Doesn't know those are the same place. So yeah, it would be insanity for it to automatically forward this stuff along. We could probably make it forward that stuff along, I suppose, in this one case. Is there anything like requests plus send basic auth with redirect with automatic? Authentication after redirect. Nice. Yeah. This is exactly what's happening, which is perfect as default behavior. This is exactly what it should do, right? It'd be terrible if it forwarded them by default. So the real question is, can we tell requests like, hey, please forward these for me, or do we need to go like kind of fully manual, hold its hand and just like recreate the URL for it? NASA. When was this? 2016. NASA was using basic auth for something. That's not good. I mean, it could be worse, I guess. Session. What? That's not going to work. Is this a post? Yeah, this is making a GET request right here. And this is saying just make a post and post what will end up being like JSON or key value. Like the server is not going to respond to that, is it? I guess they're saying post your login first. I don't have anything to post to. I just want it to follow. This isn't okay. Yeah. 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 Fair. Totally fair. Looks like request won't help us, which is fine. I think it's probably ultimately good for them to not give us that foot-pointed loaded pistol. So in order to work, we would have to, in order to work, we would have to put them back manually. If a session redirects and strips auth, calling get again reapplies the auth. Some people don't like this. I guess because they're putting that loaded foot gun back, pretty much. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, it would be easier to do something like this. It'd be less code to implement, probably. But it is bad. We shouldn't just blindly set it up so that we always follow a redirect and we always send our auth. What we should do is say, like, specifically inside CircuitPython, when we're making that first request, if we get the redirect, if our original URL was circuitpython.local, in that one specific instance, then we will regenerate the URL to include the auth and then follow the redirect. And update the host variable that we use internally so that all the rest of the requests go directly to the real host that we can actually hit that's not just a redirector. Okay. I think, though, while I did end up diving further than I had anticipated into figuring it out, I do think it's not a thing that needs to necessarily work right out of the gate. So I think maybe one thing we should mention still, so to use Circuit via the web workflow on devices that support it, use host and password arguments before your circup command. Because that part is important. You can't do like host and password at the end or something. You have to put host the value, password, the value, and then you can have what I'll call your circup command, like install, uninstall, update, freeze. There's a few others. I don't know all of them. You have to do it in that order. Yeah, see, I was working with a fake device, in fact. See here, I didn't check it out. I had this, I don't know why I had this, but all of this stuff is actually checked in. Yeah, see, I made a fake device with a boot out. This one I just copied from a real device. I even had a lib folder and I was installing stuff to it with circuit using --path. I think I just used this as like a pasteboard at some point. I'm not gonna delete it just yet. We'll wait till the PR is finished. I don't anticipate needing it necessarily, but just in case. One more thing that I will still do is also check the rendered version of the README. First of all, we have host password here, which is good. Ooh, we have a random extra backtick. There we go. Okay, so now as long as we're actually passing, then I think it is actually ready for another look. I'll ask in Discord for a Mac tester. I don't even know with its auth part or section. I'm sure there's like a technical term for the parts of a URL. But I don't know what it is or what the authentication part is more specifically. Okay, let me put that. I'm gonna run and fill up my coffee, so I'll be gone for just a minute. Let me put up a BRB note, and then we will come back and work on some more stuff. Try to make it bigger, but that'll have to work for now. Okay. Back. We're reloaded on the coffee front. Okay, next up is, this did pass. We posted to go here, I think. Just want to take a quick peek at the diff and make sure I didn't do anything I didn't mean to, right? Just make sure we didn't change anything crazy out of left field or anything. So the tests changed a bit. Start using the USB backend, which is what they always did, right? Because that was the only thing that existed before. They do mock out most of the parts that are like functional in the USB backend, which is where that, I think, opportunity with -- path is at. This one will be big, but I'll just take a quick skim. Subprocess check output? That's weird. Why did we, or why we had that, and then why we got rid of it. That's, I think, a command that runs other commands. This is inside module. One thing I wish about GitHub is that they would, the way these folds work, it makes it so you don't know where you're at in the code, in my opinion. Like, this tells us we're inside of an init function, right? But what class? It doesn't tell us what class. So, like, we don't know really the context of this code unless you have memorized kind of the line numbers-ish, right? Like, I'm pretty sure this is the module class because I've been using stuff inside this class and working inside of it for a little bit. So I know roughly that it starts around here or that it's the first class. But like, if I didn't know that, then it's just like, you have no way of knowing where you're at. And I don't always. I think on this, they should include the class that you're inside of. Like, this should say def repper, but it should say out here, like, capital M module or something, class. Now we have, and then this will be all new, right? Because this was a kind of a big refactor. So now we have a backend class, and then we have a USB backend class that extends it, and a web backend class that also extends it. I guess they're maybe in the other order. Web is first, it looks like, maybe. There's web. Okay, so we have backend, which is kind of the parent class. That contains the stuff that is common to both of them. And then we have web backend and USB backend, which each extend backend and override the parts that are different. Which is effectively like accessing files via the local file system with /media/ whatever. Or if you're on Windows, like d:/ or however it finds it. Versus accessing files via HTTP whatever /fs/file name. Okay, this just moved. Yeah, I've tripped up on this before. I've seen this and been like, why did we get rid of this? But we didn't actually get rid of it. It just moved a little bit because of the way the logic changed around. Fix that to show that it's a list. A bunch of stuff got removed here. Okay, because that's in the backend now, I'm pretty sure. Backend, like parent class, or maybe each one? I don't know, but it's definitely in the backends. Either the parent or in the children, each by themselves. Okay, host and password are the new arguments. Check if we're using web workflow. If we are, create a web backend, else create a USB backend. We put our backend object onto our context so that when we're inside those subcommands like install and uninstall and everything, it can kind of grab that backend object off of the context and use it for interacting with the device. I have to go back and look. This kind of almost feels like it could be on the back end rather than at the root level. Maybe there's a situation where it gets called without a back end. There were a few of those. There were spots where I was like, this thing kind of feels like it should be on a back end, but I put it there initially, and then as I started trying to fix everything that broke, I found spots where it was like, this code is really trying to call that thing, and it really does not have an easy way to get a back end. That I could see at least. There used to be code here to do the actual uninstall, but now it's part of the backend. And because it's just doing context.backend, whatever backend we set up before, it will handle the difference between web and USB inside there. Same thing for update, although update used to be on the module class. Okay, yeah, that seems pretty normal. Nothing unexpected. And for a new album. Then I used to use YouTube a lot for music, but well, I used to use YouTube a lot in Chrome specifically for music, but the ads are kind of out of control, honestly, on YouTube. So I am exploring other avenues to listen to the music that I listen to on a relatively daily basis, which right now is I've purchased CDs and ripped them. As one downside, though, they don't just continue playing the next thing automatically when they're done, at least not with the software I'm using right now. We can start closing some of these. Actually, one thing I do still want to do is maybe ask in the Discord if anyone will test on Mac. I think, is the other one gone? There was one that I was looking at. This one. Okay, I decided to close it. Okay, moved over to here. I do kind of agree with Vladek's overall point, truthfully, here, which is, well, we can look at it in the code. Pull it up in the code. Basically, what this PR was all about is mini MQTT. For those that aren't familiar, part of the primary sort of pattern for using this library is callbacks. Okay, so like here's a basic example of how this works. In your user code, in your code.py file, you're defining, a function. You can call it whatever you want, but it's a good idea to name it descriptively. So connect is a good name, disconnect, subscribe, unsubscribe, publish, message. You define these functions in your user code, and then you initialize the MQTT object, and then you set those functions as callbacks like this. And what happens is when these actions occur, when the MQTT client gets connected successfully, it will call that function. Whatever you set to here, it will call that function for you, and it will pass in all this stuff. And so what this PR was about is that all these callbacks have user data as the second argument, except for message. Message does not have user data. No user data. So the original PR was wanting to add user data here, basically, but also not wanting to be breaking, right? Not wanting to break backwards compatibility, which would happen if you would just add user data right here. It wouldn't be backwards compatible because any code that was using this would have been expecting topic to be the second parameter. So if you changed it to where user data was the second parameter, all of a sudden any code that wasn't updated will be referring to user data as though it's a topic, and will be referring to topic as though it's a message. But like on the surface, I agree that they should match, right? All these should be the same. So in the ideal world, there totally should be user data right here. The initial attempt at solving it was basically adding another possible one of these callbacks, an on message user data or on user data message. I don't remember what the name of it was, but it was like make an extra one of these callbacks that does have user data, which does solve the problem and doesn't break backwards compatibility because it's a new function, but it adds extra complexity. Because now there's kind of like two different on-message callbacks that behave differently and have different signatures. It's not the end of the world, but it does add complexity. And so I had tested this out and figured out that client, it is passing client, or MQTT client would be a good name for it because that's what it is. It is passing that, and that actually has the user data on it. So you can get the user data from that. But it was private. It had a leading underscore. It was called ._user data instead of just user data, no underscore. So this changes. This is the new PR that changes that to be public by not having the leading underscore, and then also updates the documentation because there was a part in the documentation right here which was non-specific and implied that it would get called to all of the callbacks, which wasn't true because of the on message being different. I will say, I think like in the long term, I'm relatively pro I think just breaking backwards compatibility. Honestly, I do agree it should have a user data. It should be the second argument because that matches all the other ones. It was even specified in the docs before, which has been changed now to be more specific about on message. But yeah, I think it should probably match. I do think it should match. And so ultimately, I think I may land on kind of rip the band-aid and break the backwards compatibility by adding it in the long term. But this does solve the same. The thing is, this allows you to write the same kind of code. You just end up doing it by getting it from the client. I don't think I knew you could use this on CPython. Like on PC? Like, will this run for me? I think I knew you could do that. I mean, I guess we can't because I don't have, like, credentials or anything. What's the number? 188. Copies of them at some point, so apparently I guess past him knew it could work. I'm surprised this can work. Yeah, it can't work. That's why I'm surprised this can work, because it can't. This can't work on CPython because secrets is a different thing. It's not gonna notice this file called secrets. Did it used to? Like, why do we have this file if it doesn't work? Did it used to work? I mean, I don't think it can work because of this. I don't know how to set up a local MQTT server. That would be fun to try someday, though. I looked into it a few times, but never actually, like, taken the plunge. What does it actually do? So it says inside here we log, we get log, send topic and message. We say client.userdata is our messages. If not messages, get topic, I don't know, is messages like a, what did user data get set to? Is that a dictionary? Oh, if not messages get, if the topic is not in the dictionary already, then add it to the dictionary and make it an empty list. And then no matter what, whether or not it was in there or not, we now append the message to that list. So we basically are building up a dictionary that holds a list of messages by topic. You can access the topic that will give you a list of all the messages. And then it's just looping and sending, or not even sending. It would be waiting on the thing to send, basically. Waiting on the server must be sending. What we will do is try a different version of this. Okay, this was the test of the arcs code. Oh, it's not gonna be on ECM1. Did that, it said like if, did it say if not? How did it do that? It is none. If not, messages.get. Although I don't think we're receiving right now. Underscore. Okay, there we go. So the topic was Fumigato feeds on off. It now contains one message, which was a 0. We'll add a 1 to it. Next time around, it should contain both. It's like it erased it. It seems like it's erasing instead of adding. I guess it's always topic is not supposed to be a string literal. Oh, those aren't adding. I keep putting 1 because I'm looking here and seeing 0. There we go. Ordinarily, I'm like pretty pro don't break compatibility, but I do, in this case, it is weird that it's different. It'd be good if it was the same, and I think I'm probably on the side of breaking the backwards compatibility if we want to change it, especially over adding the secondary callback. Secondary callback does solve it, but I don't like the complexity that it adds necessarily. I don't like the breaking change either, but I think of the, like, if I'm picking the lesser of the two evils in my mind, it's the breaking change rather than the additional code and the added complexity of the second callback. I don't know. We'd have to look at how widely used it is. Might be the case we get lucky and there's not like too many places to update it. Anybody who has their project using it, be on their own, I guess, if they want to update the major versions, but I didn't actually mention in here that I tested this. What? This one should be, so this one is not breaking, but it is, I think, secondary, right? Because it's new functionality, sort of. New functionality in the public API, which is that, well, no, we don't want the tag to just be the tag. I'm just going to set client. This one has conflicts we'll have to fix. Use time.monotonic ns if available. Provide monotonic time-based counter with consistent precision in order to be able to work over longer periods of time. Systems that lack its API, and it will throw TT exception unless use imprecise time is set to true. What is this? Why is this different? So client ID used to be a tuple that contained a string with time and a random number. CPY. On a unique client ID. Now we have time int is get monotonic time times 100. It was just calling time monotonic, but now it's calling self monotonic time. So I assume inside of there, it will be monotonic NS, or if you have that flag set to true, then it can be the other one, time.monotonic. Then we do still set client ID. It's not doing a tuple. I guess it's not technically a tuple, is it? It's just parentheses because there's no comma. I think black does that or something, right? When it splits the lines or something. Okay, so if that's true, then use monotonic, but it is also dividing it so that you still get a answer in seconds, which is why this math here doesn't have to change, which is something I was wondering about. I'm a fan of explicit else rather. I'm a fan of being explicit here personally. Like the logic is if that's true, then we return this, and because we returned this, we've already returned, which means we don't execute any more code. If that was false, then obviously we don't execute this. We haven't returned anything, which means we come to here and we return this. So effectively, there's like an else right here in between these two lines that we don't have to write. Personally, I kind of prefer it to exist though, because like, I don't know, just in my brain, the else makes this very, 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 very clearly a two-branch logic. It's going to do this or it's going to do this. Obviously, it is that regardless, but in my mind, I don't know. It takes me an extra, I got to think about it more, basically. Spend more time and brain power thinking about it than if it just said else. Basically, everything that used to call time.monotonic is now going to have to be get monotonic. This is 182. We're going to have to merge anyway, so we might as well check this out. We can search for time.monotonic to make sure there were none that were missed. That's really the only thing I can think of, like, to check into as far as stuff that we might find that's not as apparent from the GitHub page there. So only place this exists now should be inside of the... Oh, okay, I need to find something different though, I guess, because... Well, yeah. We could do parenthesis. Yeah. So the only place in the real code it appears ever is at the end of that function. Cool. Let's try to merge main. We need to update main first. Okay, so we need both changes basically is our issue here. So we got kind of unlucky. User data was the last thing listed. User data changed in that PR we just looked at a minute ago. But use precise came directly after user data. So get is like both of these things are in the same spot and they changed. Really what we want is the new version of user data from main, and then we want obviously the use precise time from our PR, but what we don't want is the old version of user data. Our pylint, take basically everything from the left and the right. Pretty much we'll take everything from both sides. If there's any other places where there's actual conflicts, we may have to do some manual adding or deleting like we did up there, but I think the rest of this honestly is likely to be just click the left, click the right, click the left, click the right. Be done. I'll report to PyCharm for making this GUI make this very easy. This interface, honestly, is a huge part of the reason that I even understand the concept of merge conflict and resolving it. Like, this is such a good visual representation of merge conflicts and resolving them that it allowed me to actually understand what those things were. All right, we are merged up. Let's run pre-commit, make sure we didn't anger any of the actions idiots of choice. Oops, the actions gremlins, let's call them. I think that's not checked in. I don't know why I really wish there was a way we could not have reuse check files that are not in the repo. But I don't know how. We should be able to just, well, we didn't actually make a new commit. We have, oh, right, we were in Circup. Good to find the remote from here. I was like, didn't I have FlatX remote? But I did for Circup is why I was thinking that, so. I think as far as the question about the approach and everything, I mean, I think this approach is fine. I don't see any issues with this. Be good with this. I think it's nice to have it so that if you want it to run, I mean, effectively what this boils down to is like really, really old and quote unquote like small devices, like your Trinket M0 or other M0 type devices, particularly ones without a flash chip. I think they don't have enough room for a lot of stuff, honestly, but one of the things they don't end up having enough room for is that nanosecond precision. That's my understanding. I don't know if my understanding actually matches the real world or not, so don't quote me. But that's how I understand it, is lots of those older and smaller devices, they can't do that nanosecond precision on the time because they don't have like the core module for it or whatever. But so if you use it on one of those old devices, because you don't have that nanosecond thing, you'll lose precision over time. If you let it run for days and days and days, eventually the time will shift. It will call time.monotonic, but it will be off by, you know, several seconds or a minute or whatever. Like over the course of several days, I think that thing said 24 days somewhere we saw, it will shift itself to be off by actually a pretty substantial amount of time. Nanosecond one does not have that same problem, as far as I understand it. But if you are wanting to use it on one of those places where you don't have access to that nanosecond precision, it's nice to be able to still do it, but it's also nice to have to go, you know, use imprecise time equals true, because you hopefully will read that and know what that, like, it's warning you essentially that your time will eventually slip. This does pass now. Be right back. I'm going to move the old sun blocker. It's that time of year and day where over the course of the morning I end up having to move this thing around a couple of times. Otherwise I keep catching sun rays in the eye. We could maybe, let's do a sanity test. There's no reason not to try this, right? We've got it all loaded up here. I mean, like, to my eye, everything looks on the up and up. I don't see any reason why this wouldn't work the exact same as the last one did, but let's give it a try here. I wonder if anybody ever said anything in here. Fire beetle. Fire beetle. Fire beetle. It's like a... Oh, wow, it has a camera. I did not see the camera at first. Really cheap for what it is. It's like a feather. Is it match the feather form factor? I was gonna say it's like a mashup of a feather and a Pico, but it's not. Not really. It looks similar to the feather format. I don't know if it's following the exact spec all the way. Like if all those pins are all the exact same. It's got the battery charger in roughly the same place. Oh, I guess the camera's not part of it, though. Is it? I don't know. I'm not sure if you get the camera with it. That might be a separate thing. I don't know how the camera connects either. This is kind of weird for the end of a ribbon cable. Does it go on one of these? You would think it would have to go on one of those. Like a squirrel sometimes. Are squirrels the things with not very good attention? I guess it would be like a dog when a squirrel runs by. Sometimes I'm all too happy to bounce into a different direction after I see something catches my eye. We already still have the same exact old code, honestly. We could just keep doing this. I guess one thing is, though, oh, no, we merged the... See, I don't know if the user data part will work, because this is a different branch, but we merged, so it should, I think. Our newer, the rest of our chart go? That's interesting. All right, we're on 1 right now. I don't think it really matters, but it's called on-off, so it feels like it should flip back and forth, right? But I don't think it actually does matter. We could just arbitrarily put whatever we want. I think we could even put other stuff, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, as expected, that's working fine. No problems there. Is that still the newest? Is there a newer? I don't think. Is there a newer? I don't think so. Okay. Is there a way to find out which boards support that? So I know there's like a module level listing of which modules exist on which devices. But this is a function. I don't understand how this page works because there's nothing here anymore. Like when I searched, it would have put something here. See, Q time. Q equals time. But then when we clicked on a page, now we're here. We have no Q equals anything anymore, but somehow these are all still highlighted. If I just refresh, they won't be highlighted anymore. But if I put... Maybe you need highlight. No, that didn't actually work. Highlight. Okay, there it is. Highlight time. But it... okay, so you make that request and then it gives you back the page, but then it also changes. Anyway, I find that weird that it highlights but gets rid of it in the URL, and if you just refresh, you end up with a different state. Ordinarily, I'd say, like, if you land on a page and you don't touch anything and you just refresh, you should be looking at the same thing you were just looking at, save for, like, you know, if it's a news page and a new story has come in or whatever, right? Like, if there's new content, so be it. But if it's a static page like this, you refresh, like, you ought to still be looking at the same thing, I think. Whatever's going on there breaks that. Long, okay. So the long integer module, long integer support, is the thing that must be turned on in order for you to be able to have the nanosecond ability. And those smaller boards, they don't have long integer enabled. Got the meeting coming up in a couple hours as well. Gotta put my notes in. Okay. So effectively, effectively you'd have to try to discern which ones have long integer, which I don't know. Is that a thing in the... That's a thing in the module support matrix or whatever. Because it's not a thing you can import, so it's not a module. But it is a thing that consumes space and gets turned off sometimes, so... yeah. It's kind of in a weird in-between. I wonder if there's a place that lists that. I mean, the thing is also, though, I think it's less relevant every day that goes by, because I think every new device has it. It is likely to keep going that way, so... Reached the end of another album. I think we'll probably wrap it up here in a little bit as well. Get some lunch and fill in my meeting notes and stuff. Okay. So for Simver, I would say this one... I feel like that's a minor number. Truth is, I'm like conflicted between minor and middle. I think I'm gonna go minor. Because it's effectively like a bug fix that you would really only notice if your project is running for a long time, hours or days at a time. And you wouldn't have to do anything besides install a new version to have the fix. So you don't have to like call a different function or change your arguments or change your code at all. You just get this bug fix by updating. And even with that in mind, you wouldn't even notice it probably unless you were like running your thing for a long time, hours or days, and you were like kind of specifically measuring the time in there to actually tell that it's getting off. Okay, so ping function says pings the MQTT broker to confirm if it's alive or if there's an active network connection. Returns the response codes of any messages received while waiting for ping resp. But now it says returns packet types of any messages. Expand. Return RCS. Empty list. This is weird to me. I don't necessarily like this define two variables on one line thing. While RC is not ping response, RC self wait for message if RC RCS append. Packet types. I don't know. Truth is, I don't really know what packet types. I mean, response codes. My mind goes to like HTTP response codes, but I don't know if that's. I don't think that's probably what it's talking about. And then in here we have now changed to, so it was returning this ping resp. Res 0. I don't understand this one at all, honestly. So I'm not, but it looks like, I mean, it looks like behavior and documentation changed. While traversing wait for message code, I noticed that there's a discrepancy between what the docs say about the return value and reality. This change fixes that. Okay, I guess my original interpretation was that that meant we're either updating the functionality to match what the docs say or vice versa, updating the docs to match what the functionality does. We updated the docs. We also updated the functionality, it looks like, to my eye. Let's step through this, I guess. So it used to say if res 0 ask ping resp, packet type ask logger got message of type. We have a new log, which didn't used to exist. If packet type is ping response, okay, that's basically what we had here, right? This basically is this. It's just we gave a variable now for this name instead of doing it in line. So if it's a ping response, then this part's the same. Logger got ping response. I assume size equals sock exact receive 0 if size is not 0. Unexpected ping resp return from a broker. Okay, I don't know. And then it just returned MQTT ping resp, which would have just been the constant that it compared to here. It's a little weird. Reads and processes network events. Turn the packet type or none if there's nothing to be received. Okay. Our logic here is slightly different. In the new way, we are... No, it's not. It's the same because we are saying these are equal. So we're returning the variable instead of the constant, but the truth is we already know that the variable is equal to the constant. Okay. We're actually returning the same thing. So the only thing that changed here is the log, right? I think that's the only thing that changed. This is technically the same as this. It was made into a variable. The variable was sent to the logger. This now gets to be a little bit shorter since it uses the variable. The return changed, but it's not like a real, didn't actually change functionally. Okay, so logger is the only bit that changed here. And this was all if packet type is ping response. We did have this before as well. So this is checking the packet type again, right? That's the same thing as this. So we have that in a variable now, packet type. I presume, yeah, this will be changing to use packet type. But before we get there, we used to say if it's not equal to publish, then log got message type and return response 0. Response? Guess is res 0? Yeah. Then it did return res 0, but now we no longer log here, but that's because this log actually would contain the same stuff anyway. And we just return package type rather than res 0. So in this case, it looks like there is a difference of behavior maybe. Res 0 would have been, it would have needed to be bitwised or whatever's going on here anded with the mask in order to be a valid one of these things. Whereas it was returning the unanded mask one, the unmasked one. But now it's returning the masked one. Same down here as well. It was, if it made it all the way down to here, it was returning the unmasked one. And now it's actually returning the masked one. Okay. So both, yeah, it does make sense that both things changed because, yeah, well, I mean, I still don't know exactly what a packet type is, but it certainly calls it a packet type and not a response code down in the code. So it makes sense that this would be packet types, not response codes. And then it also makes sense that this changed because, I mean, technically, I'm surprised Pylint wasn't mad because there were like mismatched return types, basically. Like sometimes it was returning, maybe the types are the same and that's why it didn't notice, but sometimes it was returning an unmasked value and other times it was returning a masked value. And now it's always returning the masked value representing the packet type. I guess because I added a remote. I was like, why did I not have to do that last time? This one probably can't work with the exact code we have because of the user data stuff. Morning, DJ Devin. It is actually running. Well, because it will crash when we get to message receive, though. Yeah, because we have no user data, because we did not merge main in this one. Which is fine. We'll just go and comment that stuff out. Unfortunately, I think you probably caught me on the tail end here. Probably gonna be heading out here before too long. Let's see. There we go. Okay. But yeah, it is working just fine. Just the main thing I would be concerned about. All of these are like private inner functions. So to some degree, it's kind of like as long as it works externally, it doesn't matter too much in my mind. But it is good to be consistent, I think. Definitely, I think the way that it was not doing the masked one sometimes, but was other times is weird. Notice in Adafruit IO ESP32S2, the port changed to 8883 and is SSL true? I do not know. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yeah. Is SSL true? Yeah, I do not know. I think it's like mine is not using that one, but this is just randomly stolen from an example in the MQTT library. It's not actually Adafruit IO library. There was something going on with the cert for Adafruit IO. Yeah, the true answer is I don't know. Maybe ask during the meeting or around. Ask in the CircuitPython dev channel sometime around the meeting when folks are around. You might get answers from somebody who knows what's up with that. It sounds like a good thing to me. I'm pro use HTTPS wherever possible. I mean, that maybe not be technically the right thing for when it's MQTT, but maybe like 8883, like, is that commonly used for that? If it's commonly used for that, I would say cloud access service. Yeah. 11883, that's what I was using. QTT. I don't really know how to secure. There we go. Really know how to interpret this. I guess there's two like entries. I don't know why it's calling them vulnerabilities though. That's a little awkward. Maybe it was originally registered back then, and then the new one was here. Not sure. But it looks like that's the port that's for that. So if that's what it changed to in the library, I would expect it's probably a decent chance that it'll just keep using that moving forward. That being said, like, that's total guess in my mind. I don't actually have any insight. It's commit from October 8th. A little over, almost getting close to 2 months ago. I know there was, at one point, there was something going on with the certs. Maybe there was something with the cert for Adafruit.io, I'm not sure. Like, around that time, I know that I remember hearing some stuff about certs. It's not very specific, obviously, but maybe it was tied in with that somehow? Not sure. Okay, I think we're going to release this, and then I'm going to head out, get some food, and fill in my meeting notes. Dealing with some Adafruit.io errors. I was searching for some reason why I was failing. Been diving deeper than expected, trying to figure it out. Gotcha. Yeah, I have. I've really only used Adafruit.io in kind of a testing capacity. Like I've set up feeds and then I run a test at that time and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. I haven't used it for a lot of like long-term stuff, so I have not run up against it. Like having to troubleshoot it, really. My troubleshooting is usually like whatever library I'm testing is broken and needs to be fixed. And then once I do that, it works, and then stop using MQTT and Adafruit.io for a while. This one, I think, is also another minor one because it definitely just like it's only internal stuff changes. It does not matter at all to the outside API. Let's see. Let's call this improve consistency or fix consistency. Fix consistency with wait for message returns. Returns. Yeah. I think we'll just leave it at that. Okay, I'm so bad at spelling. All right. 5 left, although this one, again, I think can be closed. Maybe I'll try to do that today, is go check the frozen library. If the frozen versions of all these libraries are updated in the core for like PyPortal and all the devices that use ESP32 as the coprocessor, then we can close this PR, I believe. Actually, this I think is the same thing, honestly. We'll have to test this. Good. We'll have to test. I feel like that should feel like that got fixed at some point elsewhere. But maybe I'm thinking of a different thing. They do say on the ARP. Hold on though, because the Feather RP2040 doesn't have network access by itself, right? There's no Wi-Fi. So the Feather RP2040, in order to get Wi-Fi access, presumably must have been using ESP32 SPI. That's my guess. They didn't say here, unfortunately. But if that's the case, then I think this is... I think maybe they didn't have the newer version of ESP32 SPI. I'm pretty sure, though, if you use the latest version of Mini MQTT, the latest version of ESP32 SPI, the latest version of requests, like if you use the latest versions of all of the libraries that deal with the network for those coprocessor devices, I'm pretty sure that loop will not block when you have timeout set to 0. I think that is how it was the last time I tried it. But we'll have to check again. So my guess is maybe this person has an older one of those libraries, and I don't know which one. ESP32 SPI is like the one that is kind of the lowest level, so that would be my guess, but maybe requests or maybe QTT or maybe something else. But if all that is actually the case, though, then I don't think this PR is necessary. I think just using the latest ones, that's already been fixed elsewhere. But what it may be, actually, though, this may tell us that at least as of 3 weeks ago, the newer ESP32 SPI was not frozen in yet. That could be the case. Because if that were frozen in, and if what I think is true, I don't know for sure, but I'll have to test. But if it turns out that it was true, then I think that means this person probably 3 weeks ago was just using whatever was frozen in, which would have not been updated if that's the behavior they were seeing. Okay. Here's another thing with timeout, though. I don't know. We'll have to test that too. Maybe these two things are doing the same. I'm not sure. Makes sense if it's still makes sense if the default will have some type of SSL. Didn't realize SSL was possible over MQTT. Yeah, I mean, you can't quote me for that, but that's my understanding of it based on what that whatever Wikipedia page or whatever that thing I pulled up a minute ago was that was talking about the usage for the port. Let's say the only way to know. Well, it's not the only way to know. The easiest way to know directly, though, is like Wireshark it. Just watch the traffic, and if it's a bunch of stuff you can't see, then it's definitely encrypted. If it's plain text, whatever messages and topics you're getting, then it's not encrypted. But I'm going to head out for now. Thanks for hanging out, folks. Hope you have a nice day. If you are... Are we doing a meeting today? Meetings today? Yeah, because we got the ping earlier. If you're going to be around for the meeting, I'll see you in the meeting. Otherwise, I will see you later. Hope you have a nice day. I still don't know. We'll still have to see from Scott. We'll have to hear from Scott to figure out about Deep Dive. I'm not sure yet. But Saturday, for sure, I should be back at the normal time. Possibly Deep Dive. Yeah, I think that's everything. So, take it easy. I will catch you later.